All right.
So today I've got the pleasure of interviewing for the people who go to 47 Hats and those people in the future who go to Flash Command, Wes Bos. Wes Bos is the man when it comes to Sublime Text. He's the author of Sublime Text Power User. He is the expert on the scene. And as a lot of developers do, I live in Sublime Text. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it, but it's where I'm at day after day. And the more I know about it, the better. So I thought I'd go find the guy who knows the most about it out there, except for the guy who invented it. A happy coincidence, yesterday it was the 7th anniversary of the release of Sublime Text. I know, 7 years. Where are the updates that we're expecting? But seriously, it has been out for 7 years. It's one of maybe the two, three, four top text editors out there for developers. And let's get to it.
All
Let's start.
right.
Say hi, Joss.
Hello. How's it
Okay,
going?
there we are. There's the infamous Google Chrome pillow in the background, I can see.
Yep. Yeah, it's my fanboyism coming through there.
So tell us about yourself. Why did you decide to become an authority on Sublime Text?
Sure. So I'm a kind of bit of backstory on me. I'm a front end developer. I do a lot of JavaScript, a lot of CSS. I also do quite a bit of Node on the back end. And I started using Sublime Text maybe about 3 years ago now. And then I also do a bunch of teaching, which we use Sublime Text for all of our students. So I've taught maybe, I don't know, 150 students, and they've all used Sublime Text. And kind of going through that, you get a lot of people asking you questions on how to do things, or kind of starting out when you're doing HTML and CSS and stuff like that. It can be really hard, and there's a lot of little things that can go wrong if you accidentally mistype. So I started getting really, really into the shortcuts in the packages that can help you become a better developer. So from that, I was writing a couple blog posts about it, and they received amazing traction. So from those blog posts, I was getting all kinds of tweets and hits and stuff like that. So I decided, like, I really like this stuff. It turns out that not everyone knows about it, so why don't I just kind of keep blogging about it? So after I had about I don't know, 3 or 4 posts, I threw up a little contact form and said, hey, or an email capture form. I said, hey, I'm writing a book, and just to see if anyone would be interested. And I got quite a few signups, so I guess I had to write a book about it.
Well, how many is quite a few?
I had about 3,500 signups
Oh
over a
my
year.
God,
Yeah,
that's
that's
great.
it's just like it's a couple a day, and well, I guess it's like 10 a day. It's like a surprisingly good trickle effect, and it was an amazing platform for me to launch my book off of.
Great. Well, let's talk a little more about Sublime Text 3. And
Sure.
I'm Mac. I think you are too.
Yep.
Um, what do you most like and what do you least like about SB3 as of today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably my favorite thing right now in Sublime Text is sort of a concept that is Sublime Text only. You don't really see it in a lot of other editors, and it's kind of a mixture of the command palette and the go to anything. So really, the ability to jump to, or maybe I should explain. I'll back
Yeah,
it up.
yeah.
So for those who don't know, Sublime Text has this feature called Go to Anything, which you pop it open with Command R or Control R if you're on Windows, and it helps you sort to the part of code that you want, and it goes to what are called symbols. So, what is a symbol? In like JavaScript, a symbol would be like a function or a method or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. In CSS, a symbol would be like a selector or something like that. So quite often when you see people coding
Mm-hmm.
and they need to jump to a specific part of their code, what do? They open up their find window and they type kind of what they're looking for. They hit enter, enter, enter until they kind of loop through the code and find the function or method that they're building, right? So
Mm-hmm.
with go to anything, it just gives you a quick list of all of your symbols, and you're able to quickly jump through your code rather than doing a search on it.
And that's a fuzzy match, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the best
Yeah.
thing because I'm the worst speller out there, and I don't always want to type the full word. So you just kind of type kind of what you want, and it will fuzzy match it to its kind of best guess.
Well, there have been times I've been editing a JS file with literally 13,000 lines in it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Um, and you could jump anywhere in there just as, I mean, faster than anything else you could possibly do.
Yeah. It's amazing how fast it is. I always tell people to open up like the jQuery source or some other just monster
Uh-huh.
file. Like jQuery is like 9,000 lines or something like that. And just try go to all the methods of jQuery and kind of get comfortable with it. It takes a bit to sort of break the habit of finding and hitting enter and kind of going through. But once you get into the habit of using go to anything, it's really helps your workflow.
Okay. Well, what do you like least about
Um, Probably this is one big thing on my wish list. I asked on Twitter kind of the other day, like, what are you looking forward to in Sublime Text 4? And I was thinking about it myself. And there's all these really, really great packages in Sublime Text. However, the interfaces for them, being able to set settings or select things or view linting, there's not really a ton of great ways to give the user an interface. So we've got the kind of drop down quick view panel. We've got a little pop up box. We've got the
it? Hmm.
little thing at the bottom. And then we've got everyone's using now is like the gutter. You can put your Git in the gutter and your
Yeah.
colors in the gutter. But now everyone's fighting for the gutter because that's really all we have for a decent interface.
We
So
need a mega gutter.
yeah, or some way to help us create our own interfaces. So whatever we want to do. Like with other editors, specifically Atom, it's done in HTML and CSS, and you can make your own interfaces for whatever you want. You can make a tooltip or a sidebar thing or a pop-up or whatever really pleases you.
You know, since you mentioned Adam, if we can go off script for just a sec,
Sure, yeah.
um, I've heard, or at least read posts, people commenting that it's basically a ripoff of Sublime Text. Agree, disagree? It sounds like you use it enough. I don't use it, so I don't really know anything more than just the
Yeah.
internet controversy, for whatever
Yeah,
that may be worth.
I'm actually really excited about Atom, just because I'd love to see innovation in the text editor space. I'm number one fan of Sublime, but I'll switch over if it makes sense for me to do so. So,
Uh-huh.
is it a ripoff? Yeah, it is. They took all of the good things out of Sublime. It's the interface, the back end is totally different.
Yeah.
But it's because switching an editor is really hard. It took people forever to move off of TextMate or
Oh,
Coda or
yes.
Dreamweaver into Sublime, and people aren't going to want to switch over to a brand new editor and relearn. It's quite an investment. So you can pretty much open Atom and get going in I don't know an hour or two. Whether you should or not, that's another question. There's things about it being slow. It can't open your 13,000 file
Yeah.
line of JavaScript. So there's some downsides to it as well, but
Okay.
it definitely took all of the good things of Sublime. Whether that's a compliment or a ripoff is yet to be determined, I guess.
Maybe the
Or
answer is yes.
it's up to you. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that got me over to Sublime Text 2 was I could pull the stuff out of TextMate that I really liked. It
Yeah.
would be able to import TextMate bundles. Matter of fact, I think I finally have killed off the last of those now that I've upgraded from 2 to 3, and now we're in late 2014.
Yep.
As of now, if you are a front end developer or a developer, whatever that may be, that does front end or does back end, what are the absolute must have packages or Sublime Text plugins, whatever you'd like to call them, that you'd recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people always ask me like, what's the best packages? And it actually boils down to, well, what languages are you building in? What is your workflow,
Well,
et cetera, et cetera.
I'm in
But
Rails and JS. Other
yeah,
people are in everything imaginable, but
yeah,
I
I think most people in Sublime or a good chunk of them are web developers.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I've got like four favorites here. My absolute favorite is Emmet, which is kind of like if you've used Zen coding before, it allows you to mock up your HTML or your Jade or your Haml really quickly. Um, it also has a whole suite of stuff for dealing with CSS, which is fantastic. I make all of my students learn Emmet just because it really speeds up the development and it cuts down on the silly errors like forgetting a colon or spell. We're Canadian, so people always spell color wrong and stuff like that, or we spell color right, but CSS got it wrong.
Yeah.
Emmet's definitely my favorite. It's actually available for most editors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next up, I got Color Highlighter. So Color Highlighter is a really cool one. If you work with colors in XML files or most likely CSS or SAS or less or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that, if you have a hex code or an HSL or an RGB, it will take the color of that value
Yeah.
and either put it in the gutter, it might underline it, or it can just put it right behind the value. And that's great because nobody knows what D12026 hex code is. But if
Mm-hmm.
you can visualize it in your CSS, it's fantastic.
That's nice.
Yeah, it recently got support for SAS variables, which everyone was asking for,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people assign like blue to dollar
Does
blue
it
or something.
does it handle less or just SAS?
It handles less and SAS.
Okay.
It doesn't handle. I write a lot of stylus, and it doesn't handle stylus just yet. So
Hmm.
I'm holding out for that.
Okay.
Git Gutter is one of my favorites. It's a really simple plugin, but really handy. So if you work with Git a lot, you need to see in your files what's changed, what's been modified, and what's been deleted. And it just puts these little icons in the gutter of
Yeah,
your
like a little
editor.
green dot or a little
Yeah,
red dot.
exactly. A
Yeah.
green plus, a red minus, or like a just a blue change.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it just shows you what you've done, and it's great if you want to be able to just kind of quickly grok a file and see what's been changed since your last commit.
Okay. And
Um,
number four.
and number four is such a simple one. It's expand to quotes. So a really huge part of getting good at Sublime Text is being able to expand your selection.
Uh-huh.
So you can expand by word and indentation and stuff like that. There's like six different ways you can expand your selection. The one thing it doesn't have is quotes. So if you have like image source equals dog.jpg
Uh-huh.
or anywhere that you have a string
Right.
and you need to select everything inside of the string, not including the quotes, uh, you're not able to do that. So someone built a really simple plugin called Expand to Quotes, and you just hit your keyboard shortcut, and it will just bump it right out to the edges of your string.
Now, just to clarify for people who might be just starting out with Sublime Text 3,
Yeah.
when it comes to plugins or packages, whatever you'd like to call them, you
Yep.
can dump the code into the correct file uh, in the correct folder in Sublime Text, or you can use something called package control,
Yep.
which I think the guy's name is James Bond or something like
James
Bond.
Bond, Will Bond.
Will Bond, that's it.
It is the Will James Bond of the Sublime world, though. Yeah, Will created this thing called package control. Oh, I think about 4 years ago now, and it's like the reason why Sublime Text is so huge because it's an easy way to manage your packages in Sublime Text. So I don't recommend installing packages manually because you can screw it up and there's no updates and stuff like that. Whereas package control takes care of all of that behind the scenes.
Nice. Um, so let's go a little further into, sort of the hidden wonders of Sublime Text. In other words, which shortcut commands do you find most valuable and are perhaps unexpected? I mean, they may not even have a interface that you see, but there are things you can do that I haven't seen in other editors.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one that I've got here is something called paste and indent, or some people refer to it as paste and match style.
Uh-huh.
And it actually is available in other editors and actually every program. I'll talk about that in a second. But a lot of people don't know about it, and every time I tell someone about it, they go, "Where has this been all my life?" So what paste and indent does is if you go to another file, you go on like a GitHub or something
Oh,
like that, and you copy paste some code, what always happens is when you paste it in, the indentation gets all mangled,
yeah,
right?
everything but the first line like moves
Yeah,
over.
yeah, and it's all, and then you spend like 2 minutes kind of re-indenting, or you pasted it in, and the example uses tabs and you use spaces, and kind of all those headaches that come around with copying and pasting code. So generally, you use Command V or Control V to paste,
Mm-hmm.
and with paste and indent, you just add Shift into the mix. So Control Shift V or Command Shift V, and what that does is it pastes it right in, and it kind of sniffs the code around it and indents it properly, so you never have the issue of the weird indentation.
Okay.
Uh, so I love that little trick, and most people go as far to replace the Command or Control V with the paste and indent
Uh
command.
huh.
So you can just overwrite the default
And
paste
text
command.
bindings, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So people switch them, which means that if you need your regular Command V, which is your muscle memory, will
Uh-huh.
paste and indent, because when wouldn't you want that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and then you put Command Shift V on regular pace, which just in case you need it, it's there.
Well, we're up to the seventh anniversary of Sublime Text, but the guy behind it is not exactly the most noise. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Shut up. Okay, there. Siri decided that it wanted to join the conversation. As I was saying, there are um, not a lot of noise or news or updates coming out of Sublime Text Central. Do you have a sense of when and if we're going to see a Sublime Text 4? I mean, where's the development on this? And a
Yeah.
lot of us are coming from the TextMate debacle, where for the longest time we're expecting a new version, and no, it goes open source. Good luck with that.
Yeah, you're all burned, right? And you
Yeah.
got the sour taste in your mouth.
Well, what's the expression? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so I let me start this off by I have no inside scoop or anything like that. I the only contact that I have with Sublime is with the kind of office manager, sales manager, whatever. She does kind of everything related to email,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been great at responding, and she's super responsive. And I know that John kind of just sticks to development. So um, there was a post on the Sublime forum, basically after I don't know a couple months, maybe even 6 months, people being like, "What's going on? Is
Mm-hmm.
it dead?" They posted up and they said, it's not dead. We're still continuing development. What happened is Sublime is huge and it's just one guy, right? So he tried to hire on another dev
Mm-hmm.
to work on, and apparently that didn't work out. So I think that there was just kind of a lot of time burn there with no real progress.
Mm.
The plan is for John to finish off Sublime Text 3. They've given us no dates and no real updates as to when that's going to happen. And there's currently some kind of road mapping going on for Sublime Text 4. So that's really all we have right now. I wish we had more,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it is such a big editor. Even just a hey, I'm working on stuff. Stay tuned. Like would be
Mm-hmm.
really cool to hear. Or like here's a sneak peek of what you might expect in Sublime Text 4. But he
Yeah, he's
tends to
not that
keep
type of guy,
no,
unfortunately.
no. It's he's obviously a genius making this amazing editor, but just keeps to himself in terms of kind of sharing what's next, which is we love it so much that we want to know like what's next. We want
Well,
it.
we can only hope that everything turns out and continues to turn out well with it, because it's the application I use the most.
Yep.
Not saying a lot, because I use a lot of different applications. Speaking of which, I got a quick question. Is there a difference between just going to File, Open, and you open a folder, and
Yep.
there's your Rails project, let's say, and making a quote project unquote in Sublime Text? I mean, Am I doing the same thing, or is there something different there?
Yeah, great question. You are doing it a bit different. When you open up a folder and you don't actually have a project open, that is considered a project.
Hmm.
However, the benefits to actually saving a project file allow you can have multiple folders open.
Hmm.
So a lot of people that work on like PHP, their folder structure is just like silly nested. Like WordPress, for example, if you actually
Hmm.
want to get to your theme, it's like 6 levels nested deep. So
Okay.
what people do is they'll open up their theme and they'll open up maybe a couple plugins, and then they'll save that as a project where you have 4 or 5 things open in the sidebar, and then you can blow it away, close it down, and then when you come back to it, all of those folders
Hmm.
are reinstated.
So you see each folder as a separate. When I open up a Rails project, I see all of my hierarchy there. At least
Yeah,
I now do. Now that you helped me figure out why certain files were not showing up because I had them excluded.
yeah.
Uh, but I see everything, and it's one hierarchy. If I open up multiple folders as a project, I get multiple hierarchies.
You get multiple like if you open one folder, that's your like top level is one
Right.
folder. You can have multiple top level folders in a project,
Uh huh.
and it will save kind of the references for those. So it really depends on your workflow for what that looks like. You might not want it because a lot of times people don't want the actual engine of WordPress or something like
Mm-hmm.
that open in the
Yeah.
sidebar because they're never going to touch it. So they want to have their theme and maybe a couple other ones open.
Well, which
So,
brings me to another quick question, a little buried tip for our listeners and viewers who are into this for the last 25 minutes.
yep.
So when I do search, okay, when I'm searching for a term, it drives me crazy when I do a search and it shows me, my minified jQuery that takes up, 5 feet of screen.
Yeah.
Is there a way in Sublime Text to specifically exclude from search certain files permanently?
Yeah, that's a great question. Off the top of my head, I know that the one way that I do it
Hmm.
is I exclude all minified files from Sublime Text entirely, or there's another, I think it's like file exclude binary.
Uh huh.
Let me just pull it open here. Yeah, binary file patterns, which is
Ah.
essentially things that you probably don't want to show up in your sidebar in the quick search is and stuff like that. So one of those things is the search. So if you're working on a project, you're probably working on the unminified version.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote star.min.js,
Right.
and that will make sure that none of your minified files get in there. Or if you do want some minified files in, you could say jQuery.min.js and stuff like that.
So that'll hide it in the sidebar. Will it also hide it during search?
Yes, yep. It'll assume it's not there.
Okay. Well, right now, which I think we're on build 3055, something like that, of
Something like
Sublime
that.
Text. Um, what gotchas would you warn developers of? I mean, you work with this thing probably more than anybody else on the planet.
Yep.
What I've noticed that there is one gotcha I know of, which is if I open a file and then
Yep.
get a new view on that file, and I just pull that off and it's now a new window, and then I do that a third time because I'm a guy who likes 3 monitors in front of him. I
With your
get a nice
13,000
healthy
line
tan that
JavaScript.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
but if I do that, if I on that third pulled off copy of the same file,
Yeah.
it won't save. At least that's been my experience. It won't save changes. I might code in that particular copy of the file in that particular window. It goes away.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if you've got any particular gotchas that you've seen that you'd like to suggest that
Yeah.
people steer away from.
The one I see the most, because I work with a lot of beginner coders who are just learning to code, and it's more of a workflow problem where you've got your Windows Explorer or your Mac Finder with your files that you of your
Mm-hmm.
website, and you've got your Sublime Text. and people drag their files into Sublime, and then they go, "Oh, I need to rename it to index.html or something like that."
Hmm.
So they go back to Finder, rename it, and then jump back to Sublime Text, keep working on that file, and save it. And what happens is if you rename it outside of Sublime Text doesn't update.
Okay.
It's if you have it open. If you
Okay.
so
Right.
when you save it, then it like let's say it was called
Mm-hmm.
about.html. I went to my Finder, renamed it to index.html. Now about.html doesn't exist. And then I go back uh, to my Sublime and save it, and then now about.html is back because it saved it over the file as a buffer. So
Uh-huh.
it's really good to not use your Finder as your kind of file user. Open the entire folder in your Sublime Text
Mm-hmm.
and do all of your moving and renaming and all of that stuff right from Sublime Text, because then you're not going to get any of these issues with editing the wrong file.
You know, there's kind of a similar gotcha that now that you mention that, which is if you switch Git branches, and you're let's say
Yep.
you're in foo.rb, and you switch to a branch that doesn't have foo.rb, you'll still have it on the screen,
That's
but
the same issue. Yeah.
it's not edited or it's not saved anywhere, and nothing you do in it is saved until you save this new file, and now you've got a file that you probably
Now
shouldn't be in,
your
and
branch has a weird file in it. Yeah.
uh,
That's I have a my Cobalt 2 theme, which I know you use. I've
yes.
got a big yellow dot on the tab. You have to turn it on, but when it's turned on, you know that the editor is in a dirty state or hasn't been saved, and it's kind of a clear flag like, hey, don't save this because now you're going to be adding a file to your branch.
Well, I'm going to add a fifth plugin to your list of four, which is the Cobalt 2 theme. I've gone through dozens of different themes because I like my editor just exactly the way I like it. And this is the best thing I've found yet. It's a lot more comprehensive than most of the themes that are out there for Sublime Text 3. I mean, it has nice little nuances like what you did with the tabs and what
Yeah.
you do with the command palette and all these other things that make it just a really nice theme.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Yeah,
great
I've
job
been
on that.
working on it. Thank you. I've been working on it I started it in Coda like 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
It was initially like Cobalt was the old TextMate theme
Yeah.
that everybody used, and I kind of took that and started tweaking it here and there. And after about 5 years, I've only put it out to the public for the last 2 years, and other than that, it was just friends kind of poking me for it. And it's blown up. I think it's at about 17,000 users right now.
Well, you just released Cobalt 2, which is head and shoulders over every other theme I can find. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I particularly like the little icons next to each file. It tells me what type of file it is, just
yep,
because it makes it easier not to do dumb things.
yeah, exactly. That's a very new thing to Sublime Text in the last I think month and a half or 2 months. We weren't able to do that before, and now we got this new API that we can color or at least put icons in the sidebar. So I'm hoping that's a sign of things to come.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
lastly, tell us about this book you wrote. Um, you mentioned that you wrote it because you got 3,500 people who wanted it. That's a pretty good reason. But I've written books. Thinking of something I can say that will not be too explicit. They're very difficult. They
It
take a
sucks to write a book. Yeah.
lot of
It's
hard
not
work.
fun.
It's a
Yeah.
pain. So why did you decide to write?
Um, I was just writing all of these blog posts, and I really enjoy writing blog posts. So I realized that uh, in order for me to get everything across, I'm not going to give someone a huge blog post. And what's happening is people start asking me these little things here and there. And I said, all right, well, I'm just going to write a book that has everything in it, and anything you could ever possibly want to know about Sublime Text will be in here. And we won't have all of those questions, and I'll be able to tell everybody these great things all in like, I don't know, in the couple hours that it takes you to read it and watch the video.
Well, it's an excellent book. It does. You have the option of buying it with video, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Current price of that is now.
Current price is $45 for the book and the videos.
Well, that's what I ponied up because I really, really enjoyed reading it and watching the videos. I'm not much of a video guy, as you can tell,
Yeah,
but the time and money you can invest in yourself as a developer, this is like will pay you back every day without fail.
exactly. That's my whole kind of spiel behind it is that you pay the $45 or whatever you're paying for the book and the videos right now, but like invest in yourself and you become a better developer and b like a much faster developer, which will pay you back, especially if you're only charging $50 an hour, the thing will pay itself after you saved an hour. And I think after reading the book, you can save 30 minutes per day.
Yeah, I would buy that. Wes, thank you so much. Thank you for the readers of 47 Hats and the readers at Flash Command. And any last advice to developers out there about Sublime Text or, Canada or whatever you'd like to suggest?
Yeah, if you find yourself being in Sublime Text, being like, oh, this is, if you find your, sorry, let me start that again. If you find yourself doing something that is repetitive or annoying more than two times,
Mm-hmm.
then ask yourself, is there a better way? And chances are there is a better way. You just haven't figured it out. You haven't uncovered the new tool or the preference that you actually want. So take 5 minutes, stop whatever you're doing, and figure out how to do it properly. Don't just keep doing it the wrong way every single time. And that will build up your really great and fluid workflow for yourself.
Well, I would add one other thing, which is you should go to Wes Bos, WESBOS.com, sign up for Wes's newsletter, because, yeah, it's another piece of email to read, but it's a good piece of email to read. And, the better you are at your tools, the better developer you are.
Exactly.
Thanks again, Wes.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's fun.
Take care.
All right. Bye bye.